So I want to start off by showing how far down we are going to go. Okay, we're going to go all the way down to the snap ring on the front planetary gear set, because that snap ring is what holds the output shaft into the transmission. Then the part 3 will have us doing the bottom with the output shaft. So we're actually going to do pretty much the middle part of the transmission, which includes the band, the servo, and rebuilding a couple clutch packs. But we're going to start on step 40, okay, which is where we left off last video. And let's get to there. 41. All right, so we're going to remove the clutch packs on the overdrive brake disc. Okay, and it shows you it has a pressure plate that is stepped. I did notice a problem with my group of students in the college on Thursday. Tuesday's group had this pressure plate flipped upside down. Because of the notch, you now created it was too tight. And because it was too tight, you couldn't assemble the transmission properly because all the clutches were grabbing. Orientation of the pressure plate is crucial, and yet I know for sure there was one group that flipped this upside down, and then that's why they were fighting trying to reassemble the transmission. These details cannot go overlooked. Likewise, we're going to air check this and then start to take it apart. So here's our clutch discs and our pressure plate. You can see there's a step right there, but before I take it out, I want to air check it at the center support right here. And you're going to see this is a good clutch. Look at that. I can hold that up there with this and then let go, and it blows the air back out, and there's no leaks at all. That's a really good clutch, okay? So now we could go ahead and we could pull this steel and friction off. And we're gonna, again, I talked about this last video, orientation, okay? So orientation of snap rings. Sometimes you'll screw up your air gap by flipping your snap ring upside down. Remember, we're stacking over here on our extension housing. So we're flipping, not sliding, okay? Pressure plate, here's the mistake. There's a ridge right here. If you flip this upside down and put it down, you just messed up your clutch pack piston travel or air clearance or air gap. So I want to take this and I want to flip it and go right up here like this. My clutches, I'm going to grab it. I'm going to just spline these on. One of the transmissions, this was not sliding properly, the frictions on this drum. So that's just as important right here, the action of going up and down on the drum as these are applied. Because some drums, they get little dents in here or wear grooves, and that will interfere with the application of that clutch. So let's go ahead and put this on. So always inspect your teeth too. So these teeth could wear as well. So it's attention to detail, and that's why people do not like doing transmissions, because they don't want to pay the attention to the detail. They just want to disassemble and reassemble, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. All right, there's a snap ring right here. It takes a different type of snap ring pliers. We need to contract this, okay? Notice orientation. They have this into this hole right here to give you access. So when we put this snap ring back on, we do not want it like at the 6 o'clock position or the 3 or the 3 and the 9. We want it at this position, which I guess you could say 12 o'clock from my perspective. All right, so that holds in this center support. What also holds in this center support is these two bolts right here. So first off, we're going to take these off. And it looks like they're maybe a 12. Let's see. Yep. Oh, a little stronger than the gun. So let's get a ratchet real quick. And let's break those free. Being careful about when you use hand tools and your hands are that close to the case, these edges will slice your hand down the bone. Okay? One of the transmissions I noticed also was missing these bolts. If you're missing these bolts, let me get that. So again, we're working on, shop practice transmissions. But if you're missing these bolts, then you're going to get an air leak at this passage going to that clutch, because these are just as important as the snap ring. Really important little bolts there. So now let's get a snap ring pliers. Okay, so these snap ring pliers, we want to, when we squeeze it, we want it to contract. Right now, when you squeeze it, it's expanding. So I've seen so many students, they didn't know you could switch the snap ring pliers to either expand or contract when you squeeze it. So now when I squeeze it, it's going to contract it. And I'm going to take this, put it right inside those little holes right there. Okay. A little bigger one would actually be really great. Let's see if I get this. This is almost not big enough. So if you were to look at the manual, it has a special tool that is a much larger one. I tried to go in through the window here. That's why they have it in this orientation. But I can't. This is a really strong snap ring. So I'm going to just work it up with a screwdriver, which is fine. But just understand there's a way to do it properly too with the snap ring pliers. So let me see if I get this right here. Okay. Get that up going. And then I'm just going to work it going around. There we go. Go in this spot right here. You don't want to force it. You want to work it so that way you don't dent this. Because that's my worry is people force these snap rings out, and then then they will not go back in properly because you just took it and you just bent the hell out of it trying to get it to move. I need a bigger screwdriver. I'm gonna get right on the edge there. There we go. And there. Okay, so orientation. So first off, I did not bend it, but secondly, this is a taper. You could tell by looking at how the snap ring is designed. So it does have a little taper right here on the outer edge. So it's flat, and then there's a little edge right here. So this has a flat side that has to go down. Okay, and you can kind of see the line right here. See the scratch? So that's telling you there is a tapered side and a flat side. So I'm going to go and flip it. Then I don't have to remember where that goes. One of the transmissions I noticed on Thursday, this snap ring was on top of this snap ring. So last year's students put this in wrong, or they forgot to put it and we ran out of time. So I just said, leave it inside, and then you could put it, or the next class will put it in. So they forgot that one snap ring, okay? So now we could take this clutch and we could slide this up. And you never want to force it, okay? You just wiggle, jiggle. It slid going in. It should slide going out. So let's see. All right, so one more thing that we might be able to do is we could take this right here, kind of wiggle that input shaft a little bit and see if that helps. Let's see if I can get underneath. Yeah, I can get underneath it with a screwdriver. So I can get in here. Okay, I don't want to mess up my my surface where I'm sealing against. So you could spin it as well. Let's see. Let's go back down. Let's spin it and see if that could work. So it's going to be a two-hand job to get this to clear, and when you pull it with both hands, and then you can get it up. So we got this loose, but I want to show you something. First off, these are directional, okay? So these are the passages that seal against the case right here, okay? So you could spin it, but when it goes back in, it has to go into that position. But then another thing is it gives you a 2 bolts to attach a slide hammer or a puller that would attach to these and then press on this input shaft. And then by pressing on it, that puller will pull this up. If we didn't get it out, then we were going to use actually a little slide hammer, and we were going to slide hammer this out. But you got to be real careful because this will not pull it equally like a puller would. It's going to kind of cock it. So you do got to be a little bit careful using a slide hammer when you do this, okay? And then another rule, if it jams, go back down. But you don't want to force it, and the reason why you don't want to force it, so you can always wiggle, jiggle to try to get that to clear, okay? And I'm going to get that out. But here's my worry. If you get this overcocked, then you're going to get grooves on the mating surfaces, and you're going to get grooves on the surface inside the case, okay? You could potentially damage the case. If you end up getting a groove where these oil passages are right here, you're changing your case, okay? If you're getting a groove right here in these oil passages on the center support, then you're buying a new center support. Okay, so now we can go ahead and stack this. Remember, we're flipping, right? So let's get that snap ring back on. So now I'm going to take this, I'm going to go up. Some of you had the wrong bearing here from last year. So the bearing here must have a tab, okay, that goes and locks into these right here, these little notches right here, okay? And what we were a little bit confused about was where it sits inside here, it doesn't cover the whole race, okay? You see that? So it doesn't cover that. It should not be a bearing that is the entire width of this race. So that was a little confusing too. We were kind of questioning that on last week. So I'm going to flip this, go upside down, stack, okay? All right, last time I forgot to talk about, on the pump, I forgot to talk about seals, scarf seals, okay? So scarf seals should be replaced with an overhaul, and they are a diagonally cut seal. So when you do a scarf seal, okay, you wanna inspect them for any damage, okay? You should replace them, but when you put them back in, you wanna pack those grooves with some assembly lube, because that's what's going to hold them from coming apart when you slide things together. So now I'll put these scarf seals back in right here, and you'll see when I push them together, they'll lock into place, and then that is going to keep them from popping out. Okay, the last thing you want is this scarf seal to pop out, and then you try to assemble it. So you do need to pack the groove with Vaseline, petroleum jelly, or assembly lube. And that will hold these scarf seals in place until you reassemble the transmission completely. Fits it perfectly, okay? And then you should check it. Take your hand and just move it back and forth, and you should not feel any edges, okay? There's a needle bearing in here. So again, needle bearing, always inspect it. If there was a bushing in here, we would check that, but I don't see a bushing, so we're good. All right, so now I have another intermediate input shaft, and it looks like a clutch. Here is a thrust washer, okay? So select the thrust washer. So when you're going back together, this thrust washer needs to have assembly lube, because this is going to go down, so you don't want this falling off. So this needs to be glued to your center support. All right, there's a trick to this, and that is we could go ahead and grab a pair of pliers, and we could pull this whole thing up at one time. And there is a band. So you know what? Let's go ahead and remove the pin on that band. So we're at a point where we're going to refer back to the manual. Here's the special service tool. Notice it takes 2 hands, very big snap ring pliers we don't have. The next pictures are showing you the puller set using to pull out the center support right here. It's showing you the thrust washer, the bearings I was talking about, and then he's using a hand to pull out the whole clutch, but we're hanging up on the band. So I'm gonna have to see if I can manipulate the band, and I'll grab a rag and see if I can do it like the picture without the pliers. So this band right here is kind of binding on us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the servo, which will release pressure on this band. So let's go ahead and remove this right here. It looks like I need a 6 regular snap ring pliers. And I'm going to take this, put it in here. And we're going to remove this servo, which is part of the overhaul procedure. And let's see. There we go. Oh, I had it out. There we go. They could be tapered. I don't feel a taper here. Okay. All right. So now it's not coming out. You might need to give it a little tap. Let me get a mallet. Yep. There we go. So we could have grabbed it with a pair of pliers too, but here's our servo. Two pieces plus a spring. And you could change the pin by removing this the C-clip, and you could probably get different size pins depending on your application. Put that aside, and look at this. I should probably show you out. So a little bit of blood, okay? It's common with transmissions because every level is a potential razor blade. And when I was wiggling and jiggling this, that's why I said use the pliers. Because I did that when I was trying to get this out. So now this lifts out perfectly because I took the pressure off of the band right here. So now I could go ahead and remove this band, and I need to just get a pocket screwdriver. Let's see if I got one. So I gotta take this pin out, but I'm gonna get it where I can actually see what I'm doing better. So that's what's great about these transmission jack mounts. And this is another thing I need to bring up. A lot of my students, they mounted the valve body where the valve body bolts, and because it was easier to mount this on these two bolts, they put this on the opposite side. So this was facing towards the table. Well, you got to get at this area. So that's why in the first video, I showed you doing it this way versus the easy way of mounting it to these two bolts. Because we got to get out this pin right here, and I couldn't really see what I was doing with it down. Okay, so I'm going to use a pocket screwdriver, and I'm going to take out this clip right here, not lose it. Okay, and I'm going to take out the clip over on this side, not lose it. Oh, I almost lost it. And then I could slide that pin out. The band's going to pop out, and then I can go ahead, and I recommend reassembling the clip back onto the pin so you don't lose these, because if you lose these, then it looks like I need pliers. It's a problem. And it's attention to detail. You don't want to take a chance of losing these, so put them back on the pin, and then you're not going to lose them. Again, I'm going to put them right there in that groove. And there we go. I don't have to worry about losing. I can drop this transmission back down. And now I can work out my band. Right here. And then, of course, inspect the band. You know, this is not a bad band, so it's not burnt, but you look for hot spots, cracks. You don't want to ever take a band and overexpand it, though. That's not good for them. I'll put this right here, and now I could stack. So here's a clutch pack. We're going to rebuild that, okay, with the frictions in there, okay. Here is another drum, and this has looks like another set of 3 scarf seals that seal on the center support. And there's this thrust washer and a bearing right here. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and put this on. Hopefully the thrust washer is staying up there. And we're gonna wiggle and jiggle and drop that down. Okay, and there's a reason why we're doing that, because we're gonna air check these clutches right now. So you have to really remember, there's 3 passages here, but this center support is flipped. This was the passage for this clutch. If you were to hit this right now, you would pop this piston out. We don't want to take a chance of doing that. The top clutch right here, so this is your forward clutch pack. I had to refer to the manual to figure out that. So now I'm going to air check this. And look at that, beautiful. And it blows the air right back out. That's a good clutch. We're still going to take it apart. That's a good clutch. So now let's pull that clutch out. And then we're going to check the direct clutch. So this is the direct clutch right here. Middle passage. Perfect. And what this just did was it checked the piston seals, but it also checked, and we got to remember this, it also verified, let's see if I get this off without cutting my hand. It also verified our scarf seals are working. So our scarf seals are good. And that includes the scarf seals on the center support, the scarf seals on this intermediate input shaft right here. These 3 right here are sealing fine, okay? And we don't want to lose our bearings, because that messes up all your oil passages, because I had a bearing right here that fell out, okay? So we don't want to lose that. This is directional, it has a lip, okay? So when I pulled this out, it went flying. You know, you could put this in backwards and that just messes everything up. You would have a stack up clearance problem. So if I'm going to go back, this is going to flip back down. I'm going to glue that. So when I go back together, this is going to stay attached to the drum in the right place. And then that goes on to this planetary set right here. Or this is the ring gear right here. Stack, stack, stack. And there's another needle bearing right here, okay? Another bushing. There's 2 bushings right here. So when you assemble things, it's all about noticing how much play you have with the bushings. So, oh, there we go. There is the snap ring that we were going to go down to. I cannot pull this planetary gear set out, because that is the snap ring that we're going to stop at with part 2 of this video. So now what we're going to do is we're going to rebuild this clutch pack, and then we're going to reassemble it to the center support. So I'm going to first grab my ring gear. There is a bushing here. Inspect that for wear. There is a needle bearing here, okay? We want to make sure that needle bearing doesn't fall. So I'm going to glue that with some assembly lube. You don't need a lot, just enough so it sticks, because you're going to be flipping this back onto the planetary set. And you just wiggle and jiggle, okay? All right, now we're ready to overhaul our forward clutch pack right here. But before we do that, I'm going to show you the scarf seals. We want to take these out. Okay, so find the edge right here. One of these have an edge. And a lot of students, they don't pack these with the assembly lube, and then what happens is they jam when they go down inside. So you got to make sure these scarf seals are packed with assembly lube. Get one more. There we go. There's our 3 scarf seals. There's another bearing, thrust washer here. This thrust washer is directional because it is notched right here. Okay. Look at that, I got another cut just by pulling this thrust washer out. So, and it's notched here. The outer notch goes down, the inner notch goes up from this drum. If you flip this upside down, you just messed up all your clearances, okay? So it was this way. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna glue this now, so I don't forget. Because I could go ahead and overhaul this clutch pack and this could be inside it and I'll be perfectly fine. So I'm going to glue that right there. Let's go ahead and while we're at it, let's go ahead and glue. Oh. And since I dropped it, I'm going to make sure all my needle bearings are in there. Looks good. Hands are getting slippery. Petroleum jelly. Can't use enough petroleum jelly. Okay. Put that on there. That's going to hold those two. Okay. Now we can take our clutch pack apart. Snap ring off. And we're gonna put it all together because we're gonna do one clutch pack at a time. So snap ring, dump this over. Oh, I was talking about this in part 1. Some pressure plates can have a top side and a bottom side. This one is the top side because the corners of the tabs are a little bit tapered right here versus the other side, they're not tapered. So those are directional, but what I was talking about is sometimes they have a wave washer underneath the bottom steel plate, and here's your wave washer. You would look for hot spots, fanning these out. Both sides, fanning these out, okay? You would check to make sure that none of the teeth are worn, and it looks pretty good, okay? All right, now we're ready to take off. And this, I'm gonna have to take off this bearing right here. So since we're going down, I'm gonna put this down so I don't mess up the orientation. And then we're going to compress this clutch and take off the snap ring. So I'm using a table clutch spring compressor this time because of the input shaft that's attached to this drum. This is not removable. So this makes it really nice. Okay, it gives you a little bit of to hold this in place. That's what this tab's for. And I'm going to just center this right here. Okay. Get my snap ring plier. I'm going to face the open of the snap ring towards me. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to compress this. So I'm actually going to hold this up until I come down in contact and center this. All right, now I'm in contact. Now I'm going to go. This is going to slide up and down, so it should not come into play. I keep one finger over the snap ring so it doesn't go flying, and I'm going to press that down. It looks like I need to lift it a little more. It's not working as much as I wanted to. Okay, there we go. And then you got to be off of these four little tangs. You got to make sure you're off of those, or it will not come off. Okay, and let's see. Might be better if I do it this way. Let me go ahead and rotate this a little bit. You just gotta play around till you get the right tension and the right situation, and that snap ring will go. It's gonna go now. Almost. There we go. Got that off. Pull this out. And let's go over to the table over here. So I'm going to pull out my spring retainer. Here's my snap ring. And then I should be able to pull this clutch right out. Oh, let me get a pair of pliers. Hold on. So I'm just going to grab a pair of pliers. I'm going to rotate this as I pull. Oh. It's not going. We have another way we could do this. So we're going to blow air into this right here, okay? And I have had pistons shoot out on me, so I'm actually going to make sure it goes down against the cart. Blow it through the hole right there, and then that piston should have came out. There we go. So you can apply air to pop a piston out. Let's check our seal. We're going to pinch it. Roll it over. Outer seal. Check for any, if you had a problem with this clutch, check for, using 3 fingers, check for any cuts. do the inner seal. Check for any cuts. I don't feel any. Okay, you'd want to clean this with brake clean and then blow this out. Okay, I know this clutch is pretty clean. It's a new transmission, so again, brake clean is what you want to use to clean the, unless it's really loaded with all kinds of friction material, then you need to go to a solvent tank and brush it and clean it. But for our shop that we have, most of our drums are clean. We do want to use a little bit of assembly lube when we go back together. Okay, not a lot. Coat the seals. Oh, I've got the check bowl. Good, that's working great. Of course, I know it's working great because I use the air pressure to check it. And then that inner seal, get some lube on there. The main lube, you want to put on the drum here. So petroleum jelly or assembly lube mixed with transmission fluid becomes really slick and it works really well. This does not require, because it's a round seal, not a lip seal. So it's a round O-ring seal. It does not require a seal protector. So now I could put this in and I could just push this down. And you can tell it's all the way down inside. We're ready to go back together with this over at the clutch spring compressor. So we're going to go ahead and go back together with this. So I'm going to go, I didn't really like this, so I'm going to go without it because I could do it without it. Get my snap ring, got the spring rotator on. Going to keep one finger on one end, and I'm going to compress this, and then I'm going to expand this, and hopefully get this spring on. I guess I'm going to need to go this side, because that's the way I accessed it before. And then I'm going to expand that little C-clip, and then I'm going to work it over. There we go. I like the click. I like the click. Okay, pocket screwdriver. You know you're in if you could spin it, and I could spin that snap ring back and forth. I'm in the groove, and you want the opening between the tabs, and you let that up. And we're good. Let's go back to the bench. Bearing, gonna flip over, okay. Wave washer right here. And then friction steel, friction steel. Might as well put it back in here where I'll hold it. Always start with the steel and then you alternate. We already inspected them. And this is the forward clutch, so this is applied in almost every gear. So this would be like your heart, a heart of the transmission next to the pump. So if this clutch is bad, you're not moving. Get my snap pressure plate on here. Let's get that in there. Get my snap ring in here. Going to take my screwdriver and jam it in there, force that up, because we're going to check the air gap, okay? The other thing we're going to do is before we're also going to air check it, so I need to put in my scarf seal, so I need to pack that area right here. The other thing about scarf seals, I will tell you, is you don't want the opening to them on the same. You don't want them all have the opening on one side. You want to alternate it. So I'm going to go on this side right here. Put that down into the groove right here. Get one side started, push it in, and then nice. See how that squirts out that assembly lube. Now I'm going to alternate. I'm going to go to this side. And too many people will just put the opening on the same side. And then when I squeeze this, it should squirt that grease out. And it did right there. Perfect. I want to alternate to this side. Squeeze that. Look at that. Perfect. That's exactly what you want. And then just check it. I already glued the thrust washer and the needle bearing. Now we got to air check this. We're cruising. There we go. Air check to make sure I didn't screw up anything. It's going to be this outer one. Oh, perfect. All right, so here's the snap ring that holds on the output shaft on that planetary gear set. Okay, so it's showing you the thrust washer that goes on top of that planetary. And then it wants us to reinstall the band. We'll do that with the 2 pins and the clips. Now it's showing you the rebuild of, it's called the input shaft O-ring seals. I just went over that. The scarf seals. Then it's talking about the forward clutch piston, the seals. Okay. You're going to put that piston in, clutch spring compressor, snap ring for the spring retainer. Then here's the wave washer, or they're calling it a cushion plate. That's what they're calling it right here, cushion plate. And it's showing you, actually it's showing you it has a stepped pressure plate. Ours does not. So it might be a different year. And then now it's telling you to jam that snap ring into the grooves, really good. And then it's going to tell you to check the piston travel and measure the gap. And it looks like you adjust the gap by changing your snap ring thicknesses right here. Okay, so the gap needs to be, looks like 19 thousandths to 34 thousandths of an inch. So let's do that. Part 1, I talked about that you could use a snap ring, or not a snap ring, you can use a spark plug gapper. And this spark plug gapper goes to 40. Remember, we don't want to go to 40. We're going to do 32, which is like in the middle. And it should, we're going to put a little pressure there, and it should have a nice little resistance, and it does. Okay, so yeah, I'm happy with this. So I used a spark plug gapper wire gauge a lot for checking our clearances. Again, it showed, the Toyota is showing us that we need to use the dial indicator. Okay, so that is an option, and you apply air and measure the movement with the dial indicator. I might do that on another video. But right now, so now I'm going to go ahead and install this. We have this completely rebuilt. We have our scarf seals, our bearings in place. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line these clutches up. Right here. Get them centered. And it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clutches. So it should drop down 6 times. Here we go. Oh, we do got to get our band in before I do that. Okay, so let's get that band in. I'm just going to stick it in loose. This is the side for the servo. This is the side for the pin. So I'm going to stick this in loose. And then after I install this drum, then I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Yep. Should be right there. Yeah, it is. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to take this and I'm going to just wiggle and jiggle. It should be dropping down. There's 1, 2, 3. Trying to get it to bottom out. And sometimes you could turn your output shaft to get that to drop. There we go. Dropped again. Oh, beautiful. Heard that? I'm happy with that sound. Okay. And then you always want to double check your scarf seals. That one popped out because of my hand. Okay. Check your scarf seals. We're on to now the direct clutch. All right. Let's air check this one more time before we pull it apart. Look good there. We're going to take this snap ring out. So let's go ahead and lift this off. Now this pressure plate does have a ridge that we want to be aware of. So there is a ridge on this. So this pressure plate is directional. Check your clutches, both sides. This one has 4 friction and 4 steel. Okay, so we're good. No wave washer or cushion spring. And now let's go ahead and take this over to, you know what? We're gonna do this one using this one. I like this better. So again, this is adjustable. We could go one up on these arms. We could go up here. So I got to adjust it right. You want this kind of centered so you get equal pressure all the way around. And you want it more closer to the edge. And push that down. And you got to clear those clips. And then this one's actually, I think, going to be the easiest one of all. Look at that. Beautiful. Press. Hook this up. Don't have to use your foot. Check your springs. Make sure they're not bent or distorted or stretched. Make sure this is flat. We're good there. Okay, this one, let's see if we could pull this one out by hand. Yep, got it. Okay. So I twisted, and now let's check this one. And this is an O-ring too. Always check for cuts. No cuts on the outer seal. No cuts on the inner seal. Check pressure relief valve's working. So let me get some assembly lube.
Rolling.
So I'm doing this off of memory, but I am also doing it because I am following the directions. We're on a direct clutch right now, and now it's telling me to coat the 2 O-rings with ATF or lube, assembly lube, and install the piston sub-assembly. Okay, so here's my lube. I'm gonna put that on. Okay, it's not, like I say, it's not a square cut or lip seal, so we don't have to use a seal protector. Okay, and then we're gonna put that in the inner groove right here. Both seals are good. So it's always good to have the manual next to you. You know, sometimes when you get good at transmissions, you refer to it at certain points, like I'm doing it. But if you're doing it for the first time, you know, follow step by step. I mean, don't take any risks. Every step, and I would argue, read it and then go back and do it again. Read it through first, okay? All right, we're gonna put that in. We coated everything inside. Just a little bit of pressure on both sides. That's all the way down. Install our retaining spring, our spring retainer. Get this position on our clutch spring compressor. Position it properly, spaced out. You don't want to distort this spring. Press down. And then I'm going to orient the spring right here. I'm going to use 3 fingers on this one because it's a little bit flimsy of a spring. And then just work that over, going all the way around. So I don't have to go all the way down because now I could tap it in the rest of the way. Oh, let's see. You know what? I'm going to redo this. So I did not get it the first time. So, you know, it's about trial and error. Find what works for you. You know, I'm doing it this way. I might change my tactic if this doesn't work after 1 or 2 tries. There we go. I'm happy with that. Get that going over. And then what I did was I allowed this to pop up on me. Okay, so now, oh, it spins. Perfect. Position that between the two tabs there. Release it. We're good. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and check my clutch back clearance. It's telling me about the direction of the pressure plate. It's telling me the order of the steel friction with the pressure plate being 3. Reseat the snap ring groove. Okay, then it's going to put it on the center support, and then it's going to apply air and read a dial indicator. We're going to do it with our feeler gauge again. Looks like 11 thousandths to 23 thousandths. I could use my my spark plug gapper again. Ready?
Yes.
Check your scarf seals, put this back on. And then before I use my air, don't want to hit air in here with no clutches, okay? So don't go too fast because you pop that piston right out and then it's going to be a nightmare. If you pop that piston out without these in here, it's going to be a nightmare to take that snap ring off, okay? Always start with the steel, okay? Pressure plate in the right direction. Twist it in there. Need a screwdriver. Jordy, you want to hand me that pocket screwdriver? Right there. And I'm going to seat that snap ring in there. Good. Okay. Now let's air check it. Middle one. Oh, beautiful. Like that. Look at that. That air blowing right back out at me. Very happy with that. Okay, now we're ready to go back in. Okay, we have our needle bearing and thrust washer already down. We have our scarf seals here in place, glued in so we don't cut them. Okay. This takes no bearing because we have a thrust washer on the center support. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line my clutches up here, there. Try to get them centered. And as I recall, this one's a little tricky to get in. So try to get those on right. And then we're gonna have to turn this drum while we drop this. Or we could turn our output shaft, which is the first thing I'm gonna do. Problem is, your hands are all slippery. So this is where it's really challenging. And the other thing is, the sun gear drum, these notches right here notch in to those outer sun gear drum. So you're dealing not only with the clutch plates, but you're dealing with these notches that have to sit down inside that drum. Okay, so I'm gonna drop this down inside here. I'm gonna line it up with the drum, and you can see how I'm doing it on the side right here. Okay, and here's the sun gear drum that I'm talking about. Now I'm gonna just, there's two. Use a rag so I don't So we're going to try it another way. We're going to pull all this back out like we did before. Pull all this back out. Use a pair of pliers. Let's see. And we're going to drop this down as an assembly. And I thought that I might have had to do it this way. There we go. I heard it bottom out. You could also see inside if you bottomed out by looking inside here. So I heard it bottom out, and you could look and you could see that it bottomed out on the drum. Now I want to drop this in. Now I got to line the clutches on the bottom forward clutch onto so I'm going to grab that input shaft. You know, I need a different. So I'm using a pair of vice grips now. Okay, I don't want my rag to get in there. And then I'm going to drop this down, and hopefully this will work. And I want to hear that bottom out. Maybe turn the output shaft a little bit. Oh, I'm all the way down. You can tell. Come down here. Look at that right there. See how that's kind of bombed out on the sun gear drum? We're all the way down. Beautiful. Take that out. All right. So I need to get the band into place right here. I'm gonna go up. So you don't want to put those clutches in without that band being loose. Okay. So now I get my C-clip, and these guys could be challenging. Sticking to my finger, throwing it off. There we go. There we go. Okay, and now here's our band right here, and our servo is going to go in. So let's do our servo next. So you want to, again, check your seals on your servo. This is part of the overhaul. Okay, these are a little tight actually. Might need to use a screwdriver. Yep, and then you use a screwdriver to pull them off. So this is part of the overhaul, is to change all these seals, okay? And then you got your piston seal right here. See if we could do the pinch. Nope. Oh, this is a scarf seal. Interesting. It's not an O-ring. Look at that. It's scarf seal. Check that scarf seal out. Okay. What do we got to do with scarf seals? We gotta pack them. Right? Glad I checked that. Now let's go ahead and put this back together. And it should squeeze out, right? When I squeeze it together. There we go. Put a little bit of that into the bore here. We're gonna lubricate our O-rings here. We'll just do both at the same time. There. Beautiful. Put my servo in. We want to make sure this servo comes in contact with the band. Okay, see, you could slip. And that happens a lot in transmissions. You miss it. That would be a problem. Whatever gear that's applied, you would lose. You need that engaged. Okay, so it looks like this is like a challenge in that you need to, oh, it slipped off there too. So pull that back, put that in. Okay, now I gotta get my snap ring. Take my pliers. And I'm gonna use my pliers to push the piston at the same time. Okay, so here we go. So let's see how we got this. Almost. There we go. Don't quite have it in this other groove right here. So this is where you might want to get a screwdriver and verify it is in. Looks good to me. So that's just a good trick to verify your clip. Oh, this one's not in. Look at that. That's off right there. Oh. All right, so it's still on the band. Oh, look at the difference there. Look at that. Big difference. It's the attention to detail. I can't tell you how many students would have been happy with what you saw, and then it shoots out while you're driving down the road when it gets pressure. We're good there. Okay. So, you know, I think when we get back to coming up assembling this, we will do this clutch. I think you have enough to do in one day with that what we just covered. So let's go ahead and drop this in, which is the center support. We have the scarf seals, the thrust washer. We will do this clutch later, okay? So I'm gonna drop this in and not force it. wiggle jiggle, okay? And then we have those bolts, and I lost one on the ground actually. And it looks like the holes should be aligned. Yep, perfect. I gotta find a bolt and then I'll continue filming. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in, okay? Get both of these started by hand. Don't force them. And then you don't want to tighten those until you get the snap ring in. If you've got these tight and you try to put the snap ring in, then this is not going to go in, okay? We do not have the special tool to contract this, so I'm going to work it diagonally like I pulled it out, okay? There, got that one down. And then I'm just going to, there we go, beautiful. And I have it in the same orientation that it was in when I took it apart. I'm happy with that. I could get a snap ring on there and I get a snap ring on there. Now I could go ahead and I could tighten those two bolts down. And with the 12, where's the 12? There we go. And let's see what the torque is. Okay, so we did not check the, did we? No, I think I totally blanked out and did not check that. But I've gone over how to check clutches, okay? This is the clutch pack we're gonna save for later, which is the Overdrive brake drum. And you can see that you could go ahead and do it. It does require a special tool, but we could figure that out later. Okay, and then it checks the, I do want to put those frictions back in, but we're trying to find what the center support torque is. Okay, so let's see what we got here. There's the servo, we covered that, and then they're putting on the center support, and here we go. So it looks like temporarily installed 2 bolts. Yep. Okay. And oh, there is an in-play check for the output shaft. We will cover that later. So that's good to know. Oh, here's the torque, 19 foot-pounds. So we have the snap ring in, and then we're going to go ahead and do that. We'll start the next video with measuring the output shaft in play. 19 foot-pounds, put on that. I love these digital torque wrenches because you just go until you get the green. I'm gonna draw them in staggered. So like 3, now go to 4, there we go, the green, and then we're gonna go to green here. I wouldn't just wrench one down and then the other. Bring them down in stages like you would a clutch. Last thing I need you guys to do for this particular step is put these clutches back in. So, and this is the Overdrive direct clutch, or the Overdrive clutch. There we go. Only goes on one way. And then the pressure plate. Again, if you can't flip these, okay? Like the steels you can flip. These you cannot flip. And then snap ring oriented the right way. And then I'm going to take a screwdriver, get that in there. And we'll measure this on when we're coming back together on a different video. This is as far as I want you to reassemble.